Hello learners, welcome to course Food Fundamentals and Chemistry MVP 001. Myself Dr. Shalini Kushwaha, working as Assistant Professor in Indira Gandhi National Open University, and today we will learn about minerals in food. It is from block 2 unit 9. After studying this unit, you will be able to define minerals and classify them into various groups. You can also outline the physiological importance of minerals and describe the applications of mineral in food industry. You can state the diseases associated with the deficiencies of minerals and able to explain the effect of food processing on minerals in the food. You can define metal toxicity, state its sources and effects. You can describe different food applications of minerals and explain the importance of food fortification. So as you know that there are constituents that are present in very small amount yet are essential component of food. These includes minerals and are called micronutrients. One very important aspect of mineral is that these cannot be synthesized in our body and food is their prime source. Minerals like iron, calcium, iodine are present in foods and are also important for maintaining normal health. The consequences of their deficiencies are well known. However, some of the minerals like heavy metals are toxic if consumed in excess. Further, certain sections of the population consume foods that are deficient in minerals. In such cases, it becomes desirable to use food supplement with minerals. Now, let's learn about the classification of minerals. In addition to the organic components like proteins, carbohydrates, fats and vitamins, our food also contains a small amount of inorganic species called mineral elements. These minerals play key functional roles in health and nutrition of humans. In the context of food and nutrition, the minerals may be defined as the elements other than carbon, hydrogen, oxygen and nitrogen that are present in food. These are present in relatively low concentration in the food. About 25 of the elements occurring naturally on the earth crust are known to be essential to life and are present in living cells. Further, since our food is derived from living plants or animals, these elements are expected to be present in our food. The mineral can be divided into two groups on the basis of their amounts in the body. First, the major minerals are found in bulk concentration in the body, while the microminerals are the trace elements and are present in very small concentration. In terms of biological roles, the mineral elements are divided into essential elements having known biological roles and non-essential elements with unknown function and toxic elements. Sodium, potassium, phosphorus, iron, calcium, zinc, selenium, magnesium, copper, tin, cobalt, manganese and fluorine are the examples of essential elements. These functions as electrolytes, as enzyme constituents and as building material in bone and teeth. Boron, aluminum, mercury, lead and cadmium are non-essential elements. Of these, boron and aluminum are non-nutritive and non-toxic, whereas the rest are non-nutritive and toxic elements. In addition to their nutritional and physiological role, minerals contribute to food flavor and texture. They activate or inhibit the enzymes catalyzed and other reactions. Even though minerals are present in low concentration, they often affect the physical and chemical properties of food because of their interaction with other food components. Now, let's first talk about the macrominerals, physical importance and food applications. As the name suggests, these minerals are required in relatively larger amount in the diet, generally greater than 100 milligrams per day. It follows that they are also present in greater amount in the body. Calcium, magnesium, phosphorus play an important role in the stability of fluid milk products such as liquid milk, concentrated milk, lassi, and control the texture of semi-solid products like cheese, ice cream, chena, paneer, khoya. While calcium and magnesium, the two divalent cations, impart hard texture to cheese, ice cream, chena, paneer and khoya, the divalent anion like phosphate and citrate impart soft texture characteristic of these products. Concentrations of minerals in the food may also affect its digestibility. So as you can see that calcium, one of the important mineral, is found in all the dairy products, green leafy vegetables and fish bones, and it's important because calcium has important structural or mechanical role. It's a component of blood, lymph and soft tissues. It is useful in blood clotting process and muscle contraction and nerve impulse transmission. Deficiency can lead to osteoporosis in life. When we talk about the food application, calcium forms gel with some macromolecules as texture modifier and firmed canned vegetables. Now next is phosphorus, which is found in foods such as nuts, oil seeds, pulses and cereals, and it is involved with the formation of bone and teeth. It's a constituent of various physiological important molecules and nucleic acids and influences the acid-base balance of blood. When we talk about the food application, as phosphates as acidulant in soft drinks, for moisture retention in meat and aids in emulsification. Then next is magnesium. It is found in whole grains, nuts, legumes and green leafy vegetables, and it informs part of the bone and tissues along with calcium and some other cations and affect fluidity and permeability of the membrane. Magnesium is a color modifier in the food, and removal of magnesium from the chlorophyll changes color from green to olive green. Another mineral is sodium and potassium, and it is present among all foods. Fruits and vegetables are the rich sources. It is used in maintenance of osmotic pressure, cell volume and membrane potential. Potassium as potassium acid tartrate is used as a leavening agent, and potassium chloride as salt substitute. Sodium chloride may be used as a preservative and lowers the water activity in food. Now let us talk about the trace elements and its their physiological importance and food applications. Microminerals occur in living tissues in minute amount. In fact, early workers who were unable to measure their precise concentration with the method then available frequently referred to them as occurring in traces. For this reason, they are known as trace elements. The microminerals are required in amount less than 100 milligrams per day. The trace elements may be divided into three groups: essential trace elements, possible essential trace elements and non-essential trace elements. First, essential trace elements. These have been shown to be dietary essential as these are vital to the enzymatic processes of the living cell. Iron, copper, iodine, zinc, manganese, cobalt, molybdenum, selenium and chromium belong to this category. Then possibly essential trace elements. These exhibit some metabolic activity revealed by both in vivo and vitro studies and likely to be essential. Nickel, tin, vanadium, cadmium, silicon, barium, strontium belongs to this category. Now third is non-essential trace elements. The essentiality of these elements have not been established, and aluminum, boron, lead, mercury, fluorine and arsenic are the example of this category. So now again let us see the food sources and their physiological role and food application. So first, iron. It is found in green leafy vegetables, cereals, legumes, meat and are good sources. Also food cooked in iron utensils also provide iron. And the physiological importance is that iron is used for the oxygen transport by hemoglobin. To ensure availability of oxygen in muscle cells, oxygen is stored combined with iron containing muscle protein myoglobin. It is a constituent of enzyme peroxidase and catalase which catalyzes oxidation reduction reactions. For food application, it catalyzes lipid peroxidation in food, and it is a color modifier in food. It is a cofactor in many enzymes like cytochromes and hypoxygenase. Now next is iodine. It is available in iodized salt, seafoods, plant and animal grown in areas where soil iodine is not depleted. When for physiological role, it is an integral part of thyroid hormone. Its insufficient quantities of iodine in diet results in the disease goiter. Thyroid deficiency during the prenatal period results in serious detrimental in both mental and physical development in the growing child. Potassium iodate improves baking quality of wheat flour, therefore it is used as a dough improver. Next one is selenium. Seafoods, organ meats and cereals are the resources of selenium. It is present in amino acids as constituent of protein. Selenocytosine occurs at the active sites of several enzymes and function as enzymes cofactor. Now next is copper. Copper is found in organ meat, seafoods, nuts and seeds, and it's a part of number of proteins including many important enzymes, and some of these are copper binding proteins: metallothionein, albumin, blood clotting factor, amine oxidase, ferrooxidases, cytochrome C oxidase, superoxide dismutase, tyrosinase, and etc. It acts as a catalyst in food and it is a color modifier, enzyme cofactor and texture stabilizer. Now let us see the effect of minerals on food processing. The freshness, appearance and nutritive value of food changes when they are stored for long time. People in food industry work for procedures which make the foods retain their nutritive value even after a long time. The conversion of raw food material into the acceptable food products by a variety of means is referred to as food processing. The techniques followed includes dehydration, freezing, heating at high temperature, exposure to radiation, fermentation and chemical preservation, and many other processes. Processing of food has advantages and disadvantages both. We know that it results into desirable changes like enhancement of flavors, improvement of texture and increase in shelf life. However, it may lead to some undesirable changes too. These includes changes in color, flavor, nutritional properties and development of toxicity. It affects to some extent all the components of food. Effect of food processing and minerals. Minerals are comparatively stable under food processing conditions such as heat, light, use of oxidizing agents and extremes in pH. Therefore, processing does not usually reduce the mineral contents. However, these minerals can be removed from foods by leaching or by physical separation. Cooking in water would result in some losses of minerals since many minerals have significant solubility in water. In general, boiling the vegetables in water causes greater loss of minerals from them as against steaming them. Canned foods such as fruit juices may take up metals from the container tin and iron from the tin plate and tin and lead from the soldering. During cooking, sodium may be lost but the other minerals are well retained. Many selenium compounds are volatile and can be lost by cooking or processing. Further, it has been found that milling of cereals causes considerable loss of minerals. Since minerals are mainly concentrated in the bran layer and in the germ, during milling, after removal of bran and germ, only pure endosperm remains, which is poor in minerals. For example, when wheat is milled to obtain refined flour, the loss of mineral content are to the extent of 76% in case of iron, 78% in zinc, 86% in manganese, 68% for copper and 16% for selenium. Similar losses occur during milling of rice and other cereals also. Minerals are quite stable to heat and pH during processing. However, change in temperature, pH and concentration or dehydration may lead to the change in the status of food system. For example, in milk, 1/3 to 1/4 of the calcium and phosphorus is associated with casein, while 66 to 80% are present as dissolved calcium and phosphorus. On heating, these minerals change from the dissolved to the colloidal state. On the other hand, cooling of milk shifts the colloidal calcium and phosphorus to the dissolved state. Decrease in pH from the normal value towards isoelectric side will cause the solubilization of these minerals, while an increase in pH will cause a shift of colloidal calcium, magnesium and phosphorus to the dissolved state. The minerals in meat products are in the non-fatty portion. When liquid is lost from meat, the maximum loss is of sodium and calcium. Phosphorus and potassium are lost to a lesser extent. During cooking also, sodium is lost but other minerals are well retained. In fact, cooking dissolves some calcium from bone and enriches the meat with this mineral. Now let us talk about the toxic metals. Now you have understood that the minerals, though required in a small amount, have very important physiological roles to play. You would be able to appreciate the fact that as they are required in a small amount, taking them in high doses may prove harmful to the extent of being toxic. The mineral elements causing toxicity are generally the heavy metals like arsenic, cadmium, lead, mercury, chromium, and these heavy metals can be present in foods, drinking water and the exhaust of automobiles and industries. Now let us learn about some of the toxic metals. First is aluminum, and sources are cookwares, cans, tap water, baking powders, antacids, processed cheese and some medications. And the symptoms which occur due to toxicity is Alzheimer's disease, anemia and other blood disorders, colic, fatigue, dental caries, kidney and liver dysfunction. Next mineral is arsenic, and sources are pesticides, beer, tap water, paint, pigments, cosmetics, fungicides, insecticides, and it can cause abdominal pain, anorexia, dermatitis, diarrhea, edema, goiter, headache, herpes, impaired healing, jaundice, kidney and liver damage, muscle spasm and many other diseases. Then next is cadmium, and its sources cigarettes, processed and refined foods, fish, tap water, auto exhaust, galvanized pipes, air pollution, and it can cause hypertension, arthritis, diabetes, anemia, atherosclerosis, cancer, cardiovascular diseases, then reduce fertility, hypoglycemia, headache, osteoporosis and kidney diseases. Another is copper. Copper is found from copper water pipes, tap water, pesticides, swimming pools, intrauterine devices and occupational exposure also. And it can cause allergies, hair loss, anemia, anxiety, arthritis, autism, cancer, depression, elevated cholesterol, diabetes, dyslexia, inflammation, kidney and liver dysfunction and tooth decay. Then lead. Sources of lead are tap water, cigarette smoke, hair dyes, paints, pesticides and in batteries, industries, and it can cause abdominal pain, anemia, arthritis, arteriosclerosis, blindness, cancer, depression, diabetes, epilepsy, fatigue, gout and many other diseases. Then last is mercury, and it can be found from dental amalgams, fishes, medications, air pollutions, then adhesives. It can cause depression, dermatitis, fatigue, headache, hearing loss, hyperactivity, memory loss, mood swings, nervousness, pain in limbs, thyroid, muscle weakness. Then you might be buying a number of canned foods like rasgulla, pineapples in sugar syrups, fruit juices, and you know that these are the preserved foods available in the market. These are the metal uptake from canned foods. You have studied that one way of preservation is to heat the food material so that the enzymes get deactivated and the bacteria cannot thrive on that food easily. In canning process also the same method is used and the food is stored in metallic container and containers made up of glass, ceramic and plastics. The metals from equipment or from packaging material, especially tin cans, can cause contamination of food products. Tin gets into most of the canned food in the absence of oxygen. Example of such foods are spinach, green beans, tomatoes, vegetable soups and some fruit juices like grapefruit juice. Foods rich in sulfur containing amino acids like pork, fish and peas undergo sulfide staining in tin cans. These stains are due to the formation of tin sulfide on heating. The nickel found in milk comes almost exclusively from stainless steel in the processing equipment. Similarly, on storing acidic foods like fruit juices in galvanized container, enough zinc may get dissolved to cause poisoning. Now, let us learn something about fortification, why it is needed and types. Number of minerals are lost in the processing of foods and its preservation. A good amount of these is lost in the cooking of food itself, and the loss of nutrient in food is implicated to be responsible for malnutrition and number of diseases. For example, the deficiencies of iron and iodine leading to anemia and goiter have been known quite well. A lot of awareness is being generated in this regard. A number of interventions are in practice that makes up for the loss of nutrients in the food. These are in terms of supplementing the food for the lost components. Nutrient supplements are added in order to maintain the nutritional availability of food, provide the adequate levels of nutrient in the food and impart additional nutritional value to the food. Nutrient supplementation obviously means adding nutrient to the food. It is generally achieved in two ways. First is enrichment and second is fortification. Enrichment refers to adding nutrient in the food so as to maintain the amount that was present in food before its processing, that is equal to the loss incurred during processing or preservation. Fortification, according to FAO and WHO, food fortification has been defined as the addition of one or more essential nutrient to the food, whether or not it is normally contained in the food, for the purpose of preventing or correcting a demonstrated deficiency of one or more nutrient in the population or specific population groups. Minerals are most commonly used for fortification, and you are quite familiar with the government campaign for using iodized salt, that is common salt fortified with essential iodine mineral. So, these are some of the foods and their fortifying minerals. First, salt, and it is fortified with iodine and also iodine and iron. Flour, bread, rice are being fortified with iron. Milk fortified with iron and calcium. Infant formulas and cookies are being fortified with iron. Vegetable mixes and proteins are fortified with minerals, and soya milk, orange juice are also fortified with calcium, and ready to eat cereals are also fortified with many minerals. Food fortification is especially useful for the people who generally belong to low income group and face malnutrition. Food fortification has been very successful in eradicating diseases like goiter. Many important aspects must be borne in mind while carrying fortification at a large scale. The food selected for fortification should be the staple food of the target group so as to make it affordable. The food fortified nutrient should have favorable physiochemical and bioavailability characteristics. The former takes care of the color, taste, odor and appearance of the food, while the latter is important from the stability point of view. For example, iron and fatty acids may react in the fortified food and produce free radicals which are not good for the quality of food. It should be economically viable also, that it should not be an expensive process. A number of factors like the solubility, stability of the fortifying agent affects fortification. The stability depends upon pH, light, temperature besides presence of oxygen. These must be considered while attempting for fortification. In addition, a proper monitoring is essential while carrying out food fortification for fruitful results. Now, let us sum up what we have learned till now. Minerals are very important from nutrition point of view and are important to food scientists also. These are not required in large amount in the body and not energy giving in nature. Minerals are actually inorganic elements which are required in very small amount but carry a lot of important processes. The minerals are classified into broad categories depending upon the amount required by the body. These are major elements having a requirement of more than 100 mg per day and the trace elements. The first type has elements like calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium, phosphorus and sulfur. The later type includes iron, iodine, zinc, cobalt, selenium, copper and manganese. Some of the minerals are part of structure and mechanical support, while others have important role in various metabolic processes. Green leafy vegetables, milk, fruits, whole grains, meat, egg, fish, nuts are good sources of minerals. Some of the metals are hazardous for human health if taken in large amount. They come from various sources like the contaminated water and food, cookware, medications and other sources also. These leads to various types of diseases and should be avoided. Minerals get affected by various food processes like freezing, drying, heating and carried out during preservation and storage of food. As a result, the food lost a number of these nutrients. In order to compensate for the loss, the foods need to be properly supplemented and fortified. Hope you have learned about the importance of minerals in food. Thank you.